Excellent. So here's our model that we need to set up for this rigging system. And what I'm going to do is just go through each mesh one by one. Are we going to place the pivot around its orbital axes? So if you look at this object, it's probably going to be rotating along this pin through there. And this one is going to rotate from this pin over there. So we need to move the pivots accordingly. So we can see that this one seems to be pretty good. This one also correct. So we can just move to the next one up from there. So what I like to do is actually jump to my side view and hit F to frame that. And on this one, hit F to frame that as well. And I'm going to hold down D. I'm going to move my pivot and place it right in the center of this little cross. So I'm going to hold down D and V, click and drag to snap it, and then click and drag to snap it along there as well. If it's all done correctly, you should be able to rotate this part along this axis as well as like this. Okay, so that one over there, hit F to frame that. You can see that's way off in the distance, and we need to rotate that so it's right along there. So now that's going to be doing this kind of motion. Now because we haven't parented these guys together, you're not going to get them to work at all. So let's place the pivots first, get each one to rotate from their according the pivots where they're supposed to be. This one is rotating like that, but through this axis. Okay, this one will rotate through there. This one will rotate through there. So it's almost like it moves, back to the roots of the geometry. Each one closest to where this one rotates. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a few moments to make sure your pivots are placed correctly. I'll have a look at your actual work, see if they rotate where they're supposed to, and then we can move on to the next step. Right, so now that we have all the parents placed where they're supposed to be, I'm sorry, all the constraints, all the pivots rather, we want to now go through each and individual piece and parent them along which object they should be following. So we're going to work with some constraint system where you have a child at the bottom and the parent object just above it. Okay, so each one is going to be the child of the next, child of the next, but a parent of the previous. Does that make sense? Okay, so in other words, these two are children of this object. Okay, this one is then a child of this one, even though this one is a parent of that. Think of it as a family tree. The great 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 grandparents would be then this one over here. I'll show you guys how to parent it just now. So you're going to select your child object first. In fact, I'm going to actually open up the outliner so you can see how crazy messy this this thing is. I'm going to select it. I'm going to shift click the one just above that, and all we have to do is hit P on the keyboard, and that's going to parent it. You'll see right here what happens. That child object will move into the parent. Thus, it's going to have, let me just turn off our shapes node so it's a little bit simpler to see. So that's going to be the child object of the parent. So once I select the parent object, you'll see both of them now turn green instead of like what we did previously where we had one and the other being white and green. Okay, so this is also a child of the one above it, so I'm going to hit P. You'll see P cube 5 is now also moving into that. Sorry about the bad naming conventions, but I didn't have the time to go and change them up. Okay, so we have some very simple, two systems working now together. So if I grab this now and I rotate it, can you guys see that the child object, or the two children objects, are now following along for the ride? So that goes like this and that. Go. So then once you have this now be the new parent, this will now become the child of the next. So all you have to do after every setup, you're going to select the child, shift select the parent, press P. Select the child, select the parent, press P. Select the child, select the parent, press P. And you keep doing that for every instance. And once you have that parented together, you should have a system that works like it's supposed to. Okay, so if you select the last object, which is polycylinder 8, you should see everything turn green in one go. I'm going to quickly cover one little thing that might occur. Sometimes you might have the wrong object selected and then parented to the wrong parent object in the chain. So what I'm going to show you guys is just opening up the whole network hierarchy here so we can actually see what's happening as this is being selected. You can kind of see how we're running up the chain. Now there is a chance that you maybe selected one object and you parented to the wrong chain, which means it will reorder a lot of these things. So now it will still show up green like it's supposed to, but you won't really notice where the mistake is. So if I grab this one, that seems like it's working, but you can see it's parented under the wrong hierarchy. Like this one is parented to this one and not to the in-between piece. So if I rotate this one individually, you'll see now it's not working. So if you made that mistake, it's quite an easy fix. All you have to do is select the child object, the one that is parented to the wrong piece of geometry, and you can just middle mouse click and drag that to the correct geometry, and that will reorder the connections. Another way is to first unparent it, shift P, and then you can reselect the one that you want and then press P, and that will do the same thing. Okay, so very quick, simple technique. And now I just literally need to go through these and actually see that they're actually following along like they're supposed to. So you won't be doing this, right? You're going to rotate only along the axes that it was meant to follow along in the first place. Okay, that seems to work. This one rotates only in this direction, which is good. That one is orbiting around this one. This one are rotating there. And then finally, this one allows us to rotate like that. Okay, so now that we know the rig is working, the pivots have been placed successfully, we can actually run through the rest of the setup of setting up certain limitations. So if we look at, let's just grab this for now, this first one in the chain. See that P cube 506. If we select the geometry and we go to the first tab in our attribute editor, okay, remember the attribute editor over here, or a shortcut Control A that cycles between them. If we look in the first tab, this is our transform node that we're actually looking at. You'll see there's an option for limit information. So you're going to click on limit information, and a window will pop up showing you the minimum rotation amount and maximum rotation amount, and then the middle column is where it is currently. So it's currently set to 0, so it's not supposed to go past 0. So I'm going to push this to the negative side. So let's just see along the z-axis. So we don't want to go past 0 for the z-axis. So I'm just going to go ahead, click on limit, rotate z, and I'm going to push that value to the left side. So now I can go up as much as I want, but as soon as I try to go past that, it doesn't allow you to rotate more or less than 0. Same thing goes, I only want it to open up maybe that much. Okay, let's say 45 degrees, so I can access the maximum side, and then just, it's already set to 45 degrees from the last time I've edited. So some of these should be pretty easy to set up. So now this one is negative this direction, but we don't want it to go in positive direction past 0. So we're going to do activate maximum, push it to 0, and then enable negative. So now we can go up 45 degrees, but we can't go past 0. So we're going to go through each and every one of these. You probably only want to rotate along this direction, but not this, and maybe this as well. So what I'm going to do is, actually, we don't want to do this either, right? Nor do we want to do this. So we're going to activate these guys, and we're going to push the value 0, 0, 0 to all of them. So now we won't be able to rotate this way, and we won't be able to rotate this way, but it's going to allow us to do this. Okay. And so it's going to take a bit of time to run through each of these. So I'm going to cut the video. So the last step in setting up the rig for this mechanical arm, or assembly line robots, whatever you want to call it, we're going to limit the amount of controls or attributes that the animator can see and or play with. Okay, so you're not going to have the animator be playing with the scaling of this. You don't want to mess it up, nor do you want to have them move this thing somewhere in space. So we're going to take out anything and everything that will cause the rig to break. Okay, so we're going to go to the first one over here. We know we're only going to be using the, I think I messed up this one. I need to go fix that. But we're going to move that only along the Z axis over here. So we're going to take out all of the rest and only leave rotate Z in the channel box. So once you have them highlighted, you're going to right click. You're going to go to lock and hide selected, and that will remove them from the channel box, which leaves the selected object with only the channels that the animator is allowed to play with. Okay, so I'm going to do that for this one as well. Okay, this one again, only translate Z, or rather rotate Z, lock and hide, and I'm going to repeat this with every one of these. You're going to make sure you only select the channels that is usable, and the rest of them you can hide. Okay, so let's say someone made a mistake and you have one of your channels that it was supposed to be part of your rotational axes. You've hid them. The way to get them back is, if you go in the channel box under edits, you'll see there's a specific it's called channel control. So if you open up this menu, it will look like this, and you'll see there's two tabs here. You've got locked attributes and you've got keyable attributes, and then in here you'll see the non-keyable hidden and non-keyable displayed. So you essentially just want to grab the channels that you want to see here and just bring them back. So you need to look for the simple names called rotate, and then obviously X, Y, or Z. So you're going to go down the list. You can see there's many hidden attributes. Just go to the one that says rotate and not rotate, pivot, or any of those. So I'm going to grab the ones that you want to add or return back to the main menu in your channel box. You're going to select them, and you're going to move them over to this side so that they show up. And now they'll be grayed out, which means they're locked. So then you can just go to the locked tab, select the channels that you want to unlock, and just say move to non-locked, and that will uncheck them from there. So once the final rig is set up and you have your channels kind of limited to only the axes that the animator should be playing with, then you're gonna have, you can go and play with these guys and see how each rotation is giving you a certain kind of control. So some of them are set only to a certain limit, so that limit over there should actually be a little bit smaller because it's going through that mesh. So I need to set that up. However, this one is quite nice, and this one. Okay, you probably want to lift this up almost straight, but you shouldn't be going past that kind of geometry over there. That's kind of preventing it from getting any further. This one allows us to rotate this way. Got to be careful not to overextend that, so you need to find the value that matches it, not to go past that point. And then over here, okay, that's a really bad pivot. You can see how it's kind of swinging forward. So I'm just gonna check this. Yeah, you can see it's slightly off from the center. So now that I've done all this work, it's very difficult for me to go and fix it. I need to go, channel control. You need to go to your lock channels, move it over, go to keyables, find the translates, move those over. Sorry, wrong side. Like that. And then we can go and move the pivot where it's supposed to be. Okay, and then you can just relock it again and hide it, or lock and hide depending on which one you want to choose. That's maybe another alternative. Instead of locking and hiding, just lock them so you know which one you want to eventually throw away. If something goes wrong, you can easily just right click and say unlock and then fix whatever you need, instead of trying to go through the whole channel control menu. So we've got this much better. Feels good. This one's rotating around there, and it's giving me a full 180 and minus 180 rotation. Okay, and then this will only rotate forward and backwards, and over here same thing. So that allows us to go this way but not back. Okay, and lastly, if we want to move this around, we can just grab that. Oops, wrong axes. See, even the instructor makes mistake. So I'm going to go here, click on the middle column, just press R to rotate, and then find the channels. It's going to be the Y axis, move that over, close this, right click, unlock. So that's another way to do that. Lock and hide, and now you can see we've got that full range of motion. And now that we know the rig is working, I just want to make sure I did clean up all these. One of these have rotations in them. There we go. And then you save it and you send it off for the animator to play with. That's it. I'm just going to save the scene as the mechanical rig end. Yes. Well, in this method, it's purely forward kinematics. There's no way you can do inverse kinematics using the parenting system. Yeah. If you want to do inverse kinematics, then you have to use skeletons, which I'm going to show you guys next.